Good evening, Cuse Nation, and welcome to the Upstate Orange Podcast, recorded live inside the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. It's Thursday, February 20th, 2014, and tonight we're going to be talking about the still number one ranked 25-1 Syracuse Orange after Boeheim and company dropped their first game of the season to the 6-19 Boston College Eagles last night, and how we'll respond the next time we take the court on Saturday night at Duke. We'll have some Syracuse basketball trivia for you and a whole lot more. I'm Jim Sinacropia in studio along with my co-host Matt Verke. Good evening, Verk.
Good evening, Jim.
And via telephone in Cincinnati, back after being off last week, our resident college basketball guru, the professor, Brad Connor. Hi, Brad.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we tonight?
Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And also in studio, the head coach of the Lions varsity basketball program, Jim Boeheim's alma mater. We have Zach Young returning to the studio. Zach.
Hey, Jim.
Glad to have you back. And you were in the Dome, as was I last night.
Yes, I was.
And we're going to have some opinions about what we saw. The Upstate Orange Podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Be sure to check out their mobile banking app or visit them online at mygenbank.com. And Seneca Meadows, responsible waste management for the next generation. Learn more online at senecameadows.com. And by Midday, Maris and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. So the run ends at 25 straight wins for Syracuse for the first time in 15 episodes of this podcast this season, Verk. We're going to be discussing a loss. Let's talk about it with our Big Five questions. Question one, and this is to all those people out there that said we needed to lose a game before the tournament. Are you happy now? We lost. We're tied for first in the ACC. We're heading into Duke, and then 2 days later we got to go at Maryland. We could have a 3-game losing streak.
And to Virginia.
And then Virginia, yeah. I mean, do we really need to lose one? Are we that much better off now that we lost? But my question, though, is, how big a loss was this in the whole scheme of things? What do you think, Zach?
I think it's a big loss because it's a bad loss. It's a bad loss when you're getting ranked, if in the tournament. They always have good wins, bad losses, and this is a home loss to a team that has 19 losses on the year. So, they've been kind of flirting there on the edge the last couple games and just came back to bite them this one. So I think it's a big deal, but we'll see how good they are the next couple games here on the road, and hopefully they'll respond.
What do you say, Burke?
Yeah, I agree with Zach. It's I don't mind them losing. I just they should beat BC. A team that's 6 and whatever they are. Didn't expect them to lose that one. NC State, I could have lived with that, but it just not sure exactly what
It's bad enough it's Boston College, but 6-19 Boston College is another story.
But my whole thing all along was I don't think they need to lose, or they were playing close games, and that's what you want to do. And like Coach Boeheim has said over and over, they're probably a 20-5 team going into that game where they pulled out. They played great the last 5 minutes, and last night they got the same shots they've had all year. They just didn't make them, and the defense kind of let them down a little bit, giving up so many threes.
Brad, in the scheme of things, what does this loss do for the Orange?
Yeah, to me, it's just one loss. It's like if they lost to Duke, and we made a big deal about that Duke game. If they lost to Duke, that was just one loss too. This is obviously a much, much worse loss. It's like Zach said, it goes on the resume, and if they get 3 or 4 more losses before the end of the year, and they evaluate the number one line, and they're trying to stack these guys up against others that have similar resumes, they're going to point to that BC loss as a reason to move them down onto the 2 line. And I fear that. If this team loses to Duke Saturday and maybe loses to Virginia a week from Saturday and maybe loses in the semi virtue of this bad loss. So it's that meaningful, but it could have been NC State, it could have been Pitt. It just happened to be the night. We've always said this team was going to lose if somebody caught fire from outside and Syracuse wasn't hitting their free throws and guys weren't making shots, and it's decided to play like a freshman, and it all happened at once.
And we really had to bring our F game offensively. We couldn't have had a worse offensive game top to bottom, and we had to have a team, that made that many threes against us, a few iffy calls. The one that bugged me was the tip-off in overtime. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they threw the ball tip. He tipped it before it left the ref's hand, and they got 3 refs out there.
Yeah, actually, the guy next to me asked if was that legal, and I said, no, it's not legal. And he goes, well, how did that happen? I said,
Boeheim went nuts. You could see him going crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's ridiculous. It was an obvious mistake. And the other thing that made me crazy was on the play that Ennis threw it out of bounds, and they reviewed it for 20 minutes. Come on, you guys.
Yeah, it didn't look like they could see the main monitor.
They went over to the high-def monitor of the TV screens, and honestly, I don't know if you watched the game on TV, but I didn't think the guy touched it.
He didn't. It was right in front of me. I was fifth row behind the Syracuse bench. It was right in front of me, and Ennis just threw it out of bounds.
I got 5 texts that were like,
I was. It was really tough to tell, but I mean, it was that close where since they ruled Syracuse ball to start with, I didn't think like in the NFL they wasn't
I think that the refs just were big LaFonso Ellis fans, and they wanted to get over there with LaFonso Ellis.
Could be,
but that brings me to question 2. And it's been a problem since the Duke game. We could live with it in Pittsburgh because it was at Pitt and we won. We could live with it with NC State, I guess, because we won, but it finally cut out to us against Boston College. But it's the offense. What is wrong with their offense, Brad?
It feels like they're almost too patient. They're resigned to wait for the best, easiest shot, and it doesn't feel like they attack enough. And I think Jeremy Grant does it, and maybe to his detriment from time to time. But I mean, Ennis has to be more proactive. I think with more than 20 seconds left on the shot clock, I think he's got to go after the basket and then drive and dish and kick out to Cooney. It seems like Cooney's only getting looks when he does curls off of screens, and he's not really trying to create his own shot. And I think everybody's sort of gotten into a bit of a pattern, and I think they just have to change things up. Individually, I think each of these guys have to do something a little bit different than what they've been doing. I think the scouting reports are pretty clear on these guys, and the defenses are designed to take some of that stuff away, and they're not adjusting as well as they need to. I think.
When they lose, you start questioning Boeheim. When they win, you're like, he's a Hall of Fame coach. I'll defer to Boeheim. When they start losing, you start questioning them, and I get torn because I think, geez, if C.J. Fair just does what C.J. Fair normally does, then there's no problem. But then on the other hand, I'm thinking, why do we let these other teams dictate what we do? It's one thing if it's Pitt and Pitt, but this is Boston College at the Dome. If we want to move up, get things up tempo, then let's press a little bit, or let's extend the zone and trap and let these guys break out of the slump by getting some transition buckets. I mean, you against a team like Boston College, you could almost throw the game plan out and say, hey, guys, just go play basketball, and we should beat that team. They were 5-19. So I would like to see Boeheim put them in situations where it's easier for them to score, which is in transition. Look back to the Villanova game. Why would we not trap Boston College when we get down to Villanova and we press and trap, and all of a sudden we score? Same thing with North Carolina. We extend our zone and trap and we run a little bit. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh geez, everybody wants to slow us down. We got to slow it down. I don't get it.
It almost feels like there's an arrogance that, hey, Syracuse is good enough. They can play anybody else's style and be better at it than they are. And I'm not sure that's a successful recipe, really.
I think it's tough to speed somebody up in the zone. Obviously, if they want to hold the ball, they're going to hold it and work the shot clock down. I don't know if he didn't want to press because he's worried about getting Christmas in foul trouble back there. Because when Syracuse presses,
or
they
just fatigue.
They're playing 6 guys. Maybe that played into it a little bit.
Get Roberson in there then, right?
Yeah, you could do a couple different things. But as far as their offense is concerned, I'd like to see Ennis look to score a little bit more. I think he's overly passive sometimes, and he kind of waits to that last 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he's looking to shoot a little bit more. But I think when teams are taking away Cooney, Ennis has to look to score a little bit. Cooney's not going to get open. Ennis is driving. They're not leaving Cooney. He's got to shoot the ball. Yeah. I think Fair's forcing it a little bit. He's 7 for 23 last night. Pretty much making layups. His jump shot is gone. He hasn't hit a jumper in 2-3 games now.
He hit those 2 against Pitt, and that was about it. That game too.
Yeah, and he does that swooping left-handed, and it's just not going in right now. Obviously Fair's had a great year for him, and he's their guy. But I think he's forced a little bit. He turns the ball over a little bit, and they're a little bit offensively challenged. When you lock up Cooney, and Christmas came off that great game, and last night he hit that point. He's got his guy.
The game was
up
over
2
at
feet
that
from
point.
the basket.
It was over.
He shoots he turns, instead of going to a strong, going up strong in one way, he kind of faded the other way, and Boeheim kind of talked about that. Grant, not a consistent scorer. He likes to always try to get to the basket, which is a good thing, but he'll knock down the occasional jumper, and they're not. I just think Ennis needs to be a little more assertive. I think he needs to, when things are, he needs to realize that early on that, hey, these guys aren't doing it. And their offense is basically running C.J. Fair off a double screen, run Cooney off a screen, then run C.J. Fair off a screen, and hope they can do something with it sometimes. And, they've been going to Christmas a little bit more, which I like. I think he's capable.
Not as much as I'd like to see him against Boston College.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see him going, especially they brought in that backup big guy, big center, and you're like, go to Raheem.
He looked like he played with us on Saturday morning.
Exactly. So he's not going to be able to stop Raheem. He's just going to have to follow him. But Zach, what do you think is a problem with this team offensively?
I think Ennis has to be more aggressive, as everybody said, and I kind of liked with it. I don't know if you remember, like in the first half, they went that little dribble weave up top, and it wasn't kind of like typical Boeheim. It was more of a little bit of a motion offense, and they got a couple good looks out of it, and we got a layup. And but yeah, they just do a lot of guys coming off a double screen or screen the screener, and I think everybody knows. I think they've always known what's coming. Everybody, if you scout Syracuse, you know what they're going to run. But they just missed a lot of chippies last night, like a lot of 8-foot, 6-foot shots. I remember especially in the second half there, it's just like I couldn't believe it. It was right down on our end that they just normally they make, and Fair. I haven't seen him play that poorly. He just missed the rim completely on a couple of those runners, and in transition he got blocked. That was
a tough one.
He got blocked bad on that, and they're not a great offensive team. They're really not. I thought their D was okay for them. They got 4. I think I read a stat today, like 27% of Boston College's possessions ended in a turnover, which is pretty good, really.
17
they
total.
They had a lot of shot clock violations because they were trying to lower it, but
should win a game when
they should win. And I would always say if you shoot 9 for 14 from the arc, that it's kind of goes back to that MO with the zone. You sit in that zone. Sometimes a team that's not as talented as you can beat you. If you shoot well and things don't go your way on the offensive end. And I think that everyone always talks about that Vermont upset, and it's similar type of story. They just got hot, and that can happen. And Boston College got hot, and they don't seem to have a killer instinct either. On the offensive or defensive end. Sometimes everything's been close, but. I'd like to see Ennis score more, and if CJ plays like this, then they're going to have games like that. CJ's got to be the man. He was the man versus Duke, and he's got to be the man. And if he's not, then they're going to struggle.
It's concerning because it's been 3 or 4 since that Duke game they haven't really played well offensively, and a lot of teams take the shot clock down, but that's sometimes they take it down too far and they end up getting really bad. Poor shots off, and that obviously plays in the Syracuse game. But Syracuse has got to take advantage of that and go down and score. And like you said, I think that if they can't wait. They got to dictate tempo a little bit more. Whether that's pressing, getting Keita back, maybe they can do that a little bit more. But you're kind of waiting for guys to make plays by doing that, and you're letting them kind of, they're close games.
One thing about it too that bothers me is that we don't look to the post to score. And Christmas is improved against a team like Boston College. I just think that's a strategy. We go inside; they're going to have to foul you, or we're going to score. It just creates an advantage for us. And the thing that bothers me the most about that is, look what happened at the end of that Duke game when Boeheim realized we had a mismatch with Grant on the Duke player. Well, we went to Grant, and he scored 2-3 times and won the game. Now, why not try that last night? Because Grant had a mismatch last night.
And he did. The one time in the first half, they went to him. He got a 3-point play, right in the post. And they just kind of went – I think he was just – Fair had such a mismatch athletically. I mean, the kid was 6'3".
But he didn't take advantage of it.
They just kept going to it. I just think
he'd catch the ball 18 feet from the basket and didn't really get. He really struggled with that. Give it to him on the block or go to something different.
And another thing is, that's great. But you got to recognize at some point that CJ Fair is having an off night. And if you want to go to a place where you have an advantage, it was everywhere on the court last night, except for maybe our guards.
Yeah, but BC's not a good defensive team.
Everybody had a mismatch. So find somebody else in such a game. I mean, in a game that went to overtime, it just seemed like that would have been so easy for us to win if Boeheim maybe wasn't so stubborn about certain things. But again, here you go. Boeheim, you lose one game out of 26, and I'm going to criticize Jim Boeheim. It makes me uncomfortable to even do it. But
right. Yeah, I hear you. But I do think you got to take, sometimes you have an off night, go somewhere else a little bit. And they just kept, I think he just has almost blind faith in CJ Fair.
They're not real creative on offense. They're high pick and roll. They'll run CJ off a double screen, run Cooney off a screen, and look inside, and then.
I always said he coaches offense like an NBA coach.
Yeah,
he gets it to his best player in space and says go.
Do it.
And he's won with it.
Sometimes
it works. Sometimes it works most of the time. But when it doesn't, I think it looks so ugly that you start to say,
it's not. I think they got pretty decent shots from them. You got to make shots.
You got to make shots.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that easy.
Absolutely. Well, let's move ahead to question 3. And speaking of ugly, what did you guys think of those throwback uniforms last night? I loved the tops, but why the blue shorts? And why do we wear orange at home instead of white and let BC wear their home whites at the Dome? Dr. Gross may be to blame for that loss.
Don't mess with something that's going well. Bad karma.
Yeah, I agree. And every time they put these stupid different jerseys on, they wore all blue in Kentucky 20 years ago.
I would have liked the all blue though.
If the tops matched the shorts, that would have been a good look.
Sharp. But yeah, it looked terrible.
But they look like clowns.
Everything on Twitter I saw
like a bad 8th grade team.
yeah, that's right. It looked like a modified team that only has one pair of shorts for each one of their uniforms. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I guess we all agree that.
I don't think they'll wear them again.
I like the tops with the script, and actually with.
But I didn't. I know it was like the remembrance of Pearl's shot and stuff. But why orange? And I don't know. Does Nike dictate that? Is that?
Nike plays a role in it.
I know they have a contract with Nike. I didn't know if they had to wear those or what the deal is. But at least wear white at home.
When Nike came out with it, that's exactly how they modeled it in the ads, and it was Syracuse and a whole bunch of other programs. But yeah, that was exactly what they came out with, was the orange on the blue. And then Syracuse tweeted something that was orange on orange, but they never ended up going with it for some reason.
No, they went with the clown outfits. They look terrible. Or as Charles Barkley would say, terrible. Terrible. Question 4. All right, Keita's been out. Rakeem Christmas finally, now towards the end of his junior season, is getting big minutes over a big stretch where he's not worried about getting pulled. If he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to be playing, and he, for the most part, has. And I think he's obviously in the North Carolina State game, he played great. I don't got too much bad to say about how he played last night, but what do you guys think about how Christmas has played since Keita's been out? Brad, what do you think?
I think he's responded well. I've seen more energy from him, rebounding, offensive rebounding especially. I've seen a lot more in the way of putbacks and things from him. I think he knows he's bit more of a weapon. I think he's building some confidence. We can see it right in front of us. I just wish they'd go to him more. He's working hard in there to try and get position. They commented about it a few times last night. He's really working to get position, and the guy that was on him, especially when they went to their backup center, it was just
he's mauling him.
Why they wouldn't just pound it all day to him. He had a mismatch. But then, you know what? He had a chance to win that game with 3 seconds to go and missed a short little hook shot. And so, I think for the rest of this year, you kind of take what you can get from him.
Yeah, I think he's finally kind of emerging and stepping into that role of being the type of player that you expect out of a McDonald's All-American. And with Syracuse big men, it usually the junior year you see some progress, and then the senior year you see the final product. And I think he's kind of on track. What do you guys think?
He was great the game before.
Almost got triple-double.
And then they don't give him the ball.
Yeah.
They don't give him the ball. And, Boeheim ripped him.
He's today. Like, you would think
called him invisible, basically. Like, and I want to almost say, well, let him get a couple more touches. Things weren't going well offensively. Just give him the ball a little bit more.
He was ornery last night, Boeheim.
I would be too if I lost to Boston College at home.
It's true. But yeah, he was yelling at Christmas like he, dated his daughter or something. I don't know.
He was 1 for 6 last night. Obviously, they don't give him the ball, and I would like to see him go. He hit some nice free throws, missed, 7 for 10. Nice game, but you got to score at the end. Like you said, you got a bum guarding you, and he's 2 feet from the basket. He's got to convert, and he didn't do it.
Yeah, it rolled off. I thought he made it when he shot it, and it rimmed off. And then next thing you know, we're down 4 points in overtime to Boston College. Question 5. All this behind us. 2 days from now, actually less than a full 2 days, we're in Durham for the rematch of the Duke game. And is this setting up to be another instant classic? Or are we in for a rude awakening and maybe our second straight loss of the season?
Go ahead, Brad.
I think it'll be sloppy. It was a pretty well-played game last time. We'd all agree. I think it'll be sloppy. Number one, because Syracuse isn't playing very well right now, and number two, because Duke's coming off of a hard game right now against Carolina and less than 48 hours rest for them. I think there's going to be a lot of missed shots. I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring. If I was in Vegas, I'd take the under. And we can do our predictions later, but I could see it going multiple different ways, but I don't feel great about Syracuse looking as efficient there as they did 3 weeks ago.
It'll be tough to match the shooting, at least, Zach, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a totally different atmosphere. Everyone's right on top of you, and it's a tough place to play. Their record there is great over the years. So I hope they get their act together. But we got offensively, like you said, since the last time we played them. I don't think Duke's a great defensive team, but I do think they're playing a little bit better, and it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I don't think Syracuse can replicate the offensive game that they had. They had career nights from C.J. Fair, from Grant. I think that's going to be tough to replicate. I think their defense is going to have to be better. I don't think they can give up 85 points and win in Durham. I think they're going to have to hold Duke into the low 70s to get a win. So it's obviously a tough task at hand. Duke's going to be favored in that game, I would say, by 4 or 5 points, and Syracuse going to have to find their shooters and get a hand in their face.
Yeah, I don't know if Duke can shoot. I mean, they shot
yeah,
great.
Both teams played really well.
Yeah.
Obviously Duke shot the lights out. Can't make that many threes again, but can CJ have 28 that night?
Yeah.
I mean, and he's coming off this game. The sad thing about that Boston College game was he still had over 20 points, as bad as he played.
He got player of the game on the radio on the way home. And he was like,
wow.
The guy was like, I don't really know who to give it to, but Fair had 20, so I guess we'll give it to him.
And 7 of 23 shooting. The other stat on CJ Fair, guys, how they give those Tyler Ennis last 5-minute stats about how efficient he is? CJ Fair in those same situations is horrible from the free throw line. Like, you wouldn't believe. I can't think of the number off the top of my head, but something like 5 for 17, maybe something like that. Just it was shocking to me how bad he was from the free throw line in those clutch situations. But I got faith in you, CJ. You know, every season ebbs and flows, and let's hope he gets back to flowing. My take on the Duke game, though, is that what a break we got. They got to play Carolina tonight. It's going on right now, actually.
43-38, 17 minutes ago.
Duke's winning. So they got to play this game and then come back 2 days later, and that's going to be Duke's third game in 5 days. So that's an advantage for us, traditionally, if you judge by how Vegas does things. So that's going for us. And the thing that really makes me mad is I was thinking about this game before the Boston College game, and I'm thinking, we're going to have nothing to lose. We're going to go in there undefeated. The pressure, we already beat them once. We're going to be able to play loose and just go for it. But now the pressure's back on us because we're looking at a 2-game losing streak. We're looking at letting Duke close the gap to 1 game against us in the ACC. If we lose Saturday, we'll be in second place in the ACC. All of a sudden, we go from having this unbelievable season to, not even having a clear shot at second place in the ACC, and I want that ACC championship this first year in the ACC, guys.
Tough road. I mean, I think it's gonna be tough for Syracuse to win the ACC. They're
especially with Virginia's schedule.
Yeah, they're a half game back, and we talked about it's an unbalanced schedule. Cuse has to play. They got, it looked nice, but they had to play BC twice, which great. But then they played Pitt and Duke twice, and BC plays like Florida State and Virginia Tech twice, and obviously not the same kind of schedule that Duke has a tough schedule playing Carolina twice and Syracuse twice as well, so tough.
Yeah, well, a couple interesting stats here before we step aside and take a quick break. I'm sure you guys may have heard this one. In the last 37 years, 2 teams have been last to lose in the regular season and won the national title, and that was UConn in 1999 after starting 19-0, and Florida in 2006 after starting 17-0. We don't have to worry about that anymore. That's Wichita State's problem now. ESPN Sports Nation had a poll earlier this week before the BC game. They said, is Syracuse the best team in the country or not? And every state said yes, because we were undefeated and ranked number 1 at the time. 7 states said no. Among the states, North Dakota, New Hampshire, all these crazy states. But one that stood out to me was North Carolina. They voted that we weren't. And this was after we beat Duke, North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, High Point. We beat everybody in North Carolina, but those people in North Carolina didn't think that we were the best team in the country. So I just thought I'd point that out.
Homers.
And then finally, guys, I got a story last night that was strange. We sat right behind the bench so I could look down into that huddle. I couldn't hear what Boeheim was saying to him, but you could see right down there. So early second half, there's a 60-second timeout, and I wasn't really paying attention. And guy I went to the game with, Steve, says, "What the hell's going on down there?" He goes, "Boeheim isn't even talking." And so I look down there in the huddle, and Boeheim's got his hand on his chin, and he's staring for like 5 seconds at Raheem Christmas, and then he shifted over to Jeremy Grant for 5 seconds, but he wasn't saying a word. For 60 seconds he did that. He stared at those 2 guys for 60 seconds. The timeout ended, and he's like, "All right, let's go." And they got up. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I mean,
trying to send a message just with his looks.
I guess it was weird. It was definitely weird. It's funny. Boeheim's such a curmudgeon. I mean, would you ever do that, Zach, as a coach? Would you ever call a timeout and just stare your guys down for 60 seconds without saying a word?
I've called timeout and not really said much before. Just kind of.
I think,
but not a stare down. No, not a stare down.
One thing that kills me about Boeheim is he doesn't even talk to his assistants during the game. He basically never consults with them that I ever see. That, like Mike Hopkins, his top assistant, sits 6 players down away from him, And
he runs the whole practice.
Yeah, if you watch Duke call timeout, the coaches huddle. Boeheim doesn't even acknowledge his coaches typically during the game. You never see any of them. Nothing. The coach might say, "Hey, put so and so in." I don't think they. Boeheim coaches 100% on his own from what I've seen, and which is kind of.
Rare.
He does his own thing. Yeah, you see a lot of coaches huddling, and you never see that from the Syracuse coaches. Usually Boeheim's talking to the team, and McNamara's over here talking on the side to somebody, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the assistant coaches do a lot of one-on-one with the guys, but you're right. In game, I don't think Boeheim's ever saying, "Hey, Hop, what do you think here?"
Right. No, he's been doing it long enough. He doesn't.
Yeah. What do you think about a little man-to-man here, Hop? So. We're going to step aside for 60 seconds here for the sponsors that make this show possible, and then we're going to come back on the other side with some Connor's Corner trivia.
We hold on to the things that really matter. Welcome to Generations Bank.
Hi, I'm Jody Torrio. If you're like me, you've got stuff lying around the house that you want to recycle, but you're just not sure how, like broken toasters, vacuum cleaners, or microwaves. At Seneca Meadows, we have a drop-off for those. Bring in anything with a cord, and we'll make sure it's recycled properly through our partnership with 2TRG. It's that easy.
And welcome back to the Upstate Orange Podcast on FingerLakes1.com and FingerLakes1.tv. Every week we get some great Syracuse basketball trivia courtesy of the Professor, Brad Connor, on Connor's Corner Trivia. What do you got for us this week, Brad?
Guys, I got all sorts of random stuff. I didn't know where to draw the line, so I just threw a bunch of stuff down. We'll throw a bunch of quick hitters at you until you get bored with it. But one thing I was looking back, I had some questions I was trying to resolve in my head of, who was the leading scorer in a certain year. I'm thinking back to certain years, right? Saw Pearl at the game last night, of course, and
I got my picture taken with him, and his girlfriend photobombed it. Did you see that?
That made me laugh. Yeah. So I was trying to, I was thinking, how many years was Pearl a leading scorer for Syracuse while he was there? And so I was doing some research on that, and I'll ask you guys that. How many years was Pearl the leading scorer for Syracuse in his 3 years on the Hill?
Freshman year, he averaged 16 points a game. Now, was that enough to be leading scorer on that team, or did Raphael Addison average more? That's the question there. I'm going to say that Raphael Addison was the leading scorer of that team.
That's correct.
Okay, averaging what, like 17-something?
Raphael Addison averaged 17.7. He was the leading scorer on that team.
Now, Pearl's sophomore year, I'd say his sophomore year, he probably did averaging about the same, 16, but he was the leading scorer at that point.
He was not. Addison increased to 18.4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot Addison was still on the team.
Yep.
Okay, so then junior year, who was on that team?
Cycling,
Addison
right?
and Alexis were on that team, too.
Addison?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're telling me that Addison was a senior when Pearl was a junior?
I didn't say that. I said he was on the team, though.
So Pearl never led the team in scoring.
No, I didn't say that.
No.
I'm asking you guys.
His junior year, he
He was on the team.
His junior year, he led Syracuse in scoring.
Yes, that's correct. So, yeah, Pearl led Syracuse in scoring one season, his junior year. Addison was on that team. Pearl ended up with more points that year than Raph Addison. But that was one year. So, you think of one of the iconic players in the history of the program, only led the team in scoring for 1 year. Now, he led the team in assists all 3 years.
Sure. Yeah, he was a great.
So then that got me thinking. How many guys can you think of that led Syracuse in assists all 4 years, going back through the Boeheim era?
Well, it's not Sherm.
Jason Hart.
Jason Hart, yeah.
Jason Hart's a good call. Yep.
You got to think guys that started 4 years.
Played 4 years.
Hey, how about G-Mac?
Jerry McNamara is a good call.
Okay, and he wasn't even necessarily a point guard.
Right.
He played that role quite a bit.
Sherman didn't stay his senior year, did he?
Well, his freshman, no, he did, but his freshman year he was behind Pearl.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, he was one of the top assist guys in the history of the game, and he didn't lead his team in assists his freshman year.
I'd almost say Gene Waldron, except Waldron's senior year was Pearl's freshman year, so he couldn't have.
Gene Waldron never led Syracuse in assists.
Oh, well, there you go.
Dave Bing.
I said Boeheim era. I don't have that stats going back that far.
Then you got your Alan Griffins, your Michael Edwards. I mean, come on, none of these guys. Adrian Autry.
Red Autry is a very good call too. All 4 years for him.
And that's it.
That's it. Those are the three. Those three guys are the only three that led Syracuse in assists all 4 years. McNamara, Jason Hart. Oh, you didn't say Jason Hart. Damn it.
No, they did. They let off.
Before.
Zach and Verk let off with Hart. We're on fire tonight, babe.
Okay.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
All right. How many guys led Syracuse in rebounding all 4 years?
Derek Coleman.
Correct.
Which then therefore eliminates Billy Owens, but I guess he wouldn't really be in contention there.
And Ronnie Cycli.
Yeah, and Cycli. Boeheim era, Roosevelt Bowie.
No.
Wow.
I saw Roosevelt Bowie when I scouted Kendall. He goes out. He's from Kendall. He goes to all the games. If he comes to Lions tomorrow, I want to
live in Kendall.
Yeah, I think he's. I don't know if he lives there still, but that's where he's from. If he comes to Lions tomorrow, I want to get a picture in front of Boeheim's Hall of
He
Fame
was
play.
still back.
Oh, that'd
back
be
in
nice.
New York. I
That'd
thought
be
he
nice.
was like established himself in Europe or wherever.
When I was in school at Brockport, he would come play open gym from noon to 1.
He was in Italy for a long time.
Yeah.
But he did not lead Syracuse in rebounding for 4 years.
How about John Wallace?
Louis Orr led it his senior year.
Ooh, good guess.
No.
John
Wallace. No, not his freshman
John
year.
Wallace is correct.
Oh, wow. Great. Good for him. Good pick.
That was a
Rick.
good call. John Wallace led as a freshman, which surprised me. I actually highlighted that one.
What about-
I was surprised to see that. So
Yeah, I
it's just
wouldn't
those
have
two, Coleman and Wallace.
Well, that's it, huh? No Danny Shays?
No Danny Shays. Danny Shays only led 1 year in rebounding.
Okay.
What's funny is Ronnie Cycli led rebounding his freshman and sophomore year. And you remember the freshman, Ronnie Cycli was very, very raw.
Yeah.
He barely played even, and coming into Syracuse and led Syracuse rebounding 2 years. And then Coleman came in, and that was that.
Huh.
All right, so let me ask you this: going back to certain years, who led Syracuse in scoring in 2008?
Preston Shumpert.
Incorrect.
Damone Brown.
That was after Shumpert's era. Not Damone Brown. That was after him too. 2008. That's not too long ago.
Who's the guy?
Oh, I was thinking 98.
who's the
My
one and
bad.
done? Who's the one that left?
Dante Green.
Dante Green? Is he 8?
Dante Green's a good call.
I was thinking 1998, not 2008. My bad.
All right, who led scoring in 1998?
Preston Shumpert.
Incorrect.
Damone Brown.
There yet. Not Damone Brown.
98. Ryan Blackwell.
Incorrect.
Bergen.
Good guess, but incorrect.
Bergen was gone, I think.
Pat Bergen is correct.
Oh, was-
Oh, yeah. He was a freshman
a
in 96.
No, he's a sophomore.
Sophomore in 96.
Sophomore.
Bergen.
So Bergen was a senior in
Senior.
98.
Yeah,
when
that's
he led
I thought he was a
scoring.
junior.
Yeah, good call, Zach.
It's the year I graduated high school.
Here's
It's easy to remember
one
that.
stood out to me. Year prior, 1997. So the year after they were in the finals. Year after Wallace left.
Bergen, Blackwell.
And it wasn't Bergen.
Was not Todd Bergen.
Was it Lucius Harris?
No, he was gone.
Or
by
Luke
then.
Jackson. I mean, Luke Jackson.
Luke Jackson. Yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah, he was gone by then.
Lucius Harris was a shooting guard for the Mavs.
So think about the guys on that 96 team.
Yeah. Trying to think.
Well, Otis Hill.
Sapola?
Otis Hill is correct.
Wow, leading scorer.
Sapola's way later, though.
Yeah, that one surprised me. You
Otis
never really
Hill's a
pictured him
leading
as a scorer,
scorer?
but yeah,
Especially-
He must have redshirted
Every
because
game.
I think he graduated high school in May. Was he a redshirt?
I don't think he redshirted.
Or maybe it was a
no.
year. I played against him in high school in AAU a couple times.
I think he might have sat out a year with injury, maybe.
I think I thought he was my year, and I graduated in '96. So.
I think you're right. I think he and Wallace came in together, if I remember right. But I think he sat out a year. All right, who led Syracuse in scoring in 1988?
It's
Billy Owens.
That would be his freshman year.
He wasn't there then. That was the year before he got there.
Oh, Derek Coleman. I don't know. He didn't score that much. Yeah, he did. Derek Coleman.
That was Coleman's sophomore year.
Yeah.
Sherm's junior year.
Cycli?
Ronnie Cycli's correct.
Wow. Cycli averaged more than
Yeah.
points than Coleman.
Yeah, that one was hard for me to believe. Who led Syracuse in assists in 1982 and in 1983?
Tony Red Bruin.
Decent guess, but incorrect.
Eric Sandifer.
No, incorrect.
Jeez.
Sandifer he was a gunner. There's no way he would lead in assists.
Was Routins gone?
Well, you already told me Gene Waldron
What?
never led him in assists, right?
Yeah, not Gene Waldron.
Was Routins gone then?
He was
Oh, no, that was it. Leo
Leo
Routins.
Routins. Should have known that one, too. He's the original
Has led the team
triple-double
in
guy
assists
for
2 straight
Syracuse.
years as a power forward.
Never got triple-double.
Who led Syracuse in assists in 2002? You get this, and you win great prizes.
2002. That's the year before we won the national title. It was the year before Edelin and GMAC. James
Went to the
Theus.
NIT.
James Theus.
You win great prizes, Jim. That
What
was
are
a
the great
fantastic
prizes?
call. James Theus.
What are the great prizes?
I don't even remember him.
You don't remember he transferred to Detroit?
Wow.
He played, 2 years, I think, right?
Yeah.
Before he
Boy,
transferred. That's a fantastic call. I never thought you'd get that.
I would never thought we would win the national championship 365 days later. After James Theus led us with
After
the
losing in the NIT Final Four to South Carolina.
yeah.
No, I do remember that.
All right, here's a random fact for you guys, or a random question for you guys. What's the worst seed, NCAA seed, that Syracuse has ever gotten?
Like 12 once?
How far back does it go? Can you give us that hint?
Well, they started seeding the tournament in 1979.
Right, but there was only 32 teams in 79.
That one year I
Yeah,
thought they
right.
were going to get a 12, but then they didn't get in.
Yeah. Every time we
That
get
was in the Roberts area.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to say 10.
I think we're probably an 8-9.
I'll go 9.
Oklahoma State.
Memories.
Yeah. How many
What?
times have they been number one seed in history?
Once.
Twice.
3.
Once.
3 is correct. Can you name those years?
Probably 2 of them are in the last
One
5
was
years.
Last time
2010.
last time they were in Buffalo,
Last year.
right?
Last year.
Last year.
No, last year they're like a 5 seed.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years. 2010.
Onawaku senior year, right?
Yeah, that was 2010.
In 2009.
Butler. No,
11.
almost.
2 are recent.
12.
Yeah, 2 are recent. One must have been like 89.
What'd you say?
12 was 2 years ago. 12, 2 years
10
ago.
and 12?
Fab Mello year.
Oh, yeah, Fab Mello.
And then there was one other.
It wasn't the year we lost to Richmond because we were a 2 seed, but it was the year before that, I'm going to say.
88.
Incorrect. No, they were 2 seed the year before that too.
Was
They were
it-
2 seed 3 straight years. In 88, 89, or 89, 90, 91, they were 2 seed every one of those years. They were 2 seed
1985.
5 out of 7 years. 5 out of 6 years, I mean.
85?
They were 2 seed that year. No, they were 7 seed that year. From 86 to 91, they were a 2 seed every year but one, and that one they were a 3 seed. So that was a very dominant stretch.
Well, when's the other one? Because I have no
A 1 seed any of those years.
idea right now.
You got to go back to 1980, Louis and Bowie, number 1 seed. They lost to Iowa in the Sweet 16. 26-4.
Well, Brad, I got to tell you, that was great trivia tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. A lot going on there.
You had a lot of thinking to do after taking a week off when you're on the plane over the Atlantic Ocean.
I had a lot of time to plan, yeah. I've sitting in Europe thinking about what I'm going to have you guys tackle this week.
Well, let's move ahead to the list of the week. And this week, what I did was I just got some Twitter statements and a few things from the press, and I want to just get your reaction from some of this stuff, whether you agree with what they're saying or not. Seth Davis, at Seth Davis Hoops on Twitter, said, "The issue for these teams is not physical exhaustion. It's mental exhaustion. Wears on you taking everyone's best shot for 3 months." Do you think that played into the BC loss, the fact that these guys are just getting everybody's best shot, everybody's focused on them being undefeated, mental exhaustion, not physical? Agree, disagree?
I think every team has some level of mental exhaustion. You know, I'm sure Boston College is exhausted from having such a terrible year.
Good point.
So I think they might have looked past them. You know, I think that's human nature. Even though Boeheim made it very clear that they didn't. I think sometimes any level of kids, you know, high school, college, even in the NBA, you look past people. It's a grind. You know, it looks like a cakewalk on paper, and they didn't play well. So I don't know about the whole mental exhaustion.
What do you think, Verk? Is that when you played at William & Mary, did you get a little mentally exhausted towards this time of year?
Yeah, I mean it's a grind. It's you know, you're deep into the season. It is a mental grind. You're going through the fun time of the year. I think it's mentally tougher at the beginning of the year when you're just practicing for 2-3 weeks straight. Yeah. But this is kind of fun time of year where you practice. There's not a whole lot of hard practicing going on at this point in the year. You're playing games, you're doing walkthroughs, you're watching tape. But it's all a grind. You're in there an hour before practice, getting taped. You're doing individual workouts. But every team is in that mode. So I wouldn't say blame a loss on the mental grind of being number one. I don't. I don't buy into that. And I think Coach Boeheim was constantly reminding them that, hey, we got to play better. He knows. I think he's always has a good feel for how good this team is, and he knows they're good, but he knows they're not. They're not. He always says there's a lot of parity, and I think that's true. I think, hey, if Syracuse can lose to BC at home, you're talking about the undefeated team, and nobody's been undefeated this long in the season. They just lose to a team that's 6-17 or something.
I was heading out of the dome, and a BC fan said something to me. He goes, "Not number one anymore." And I said, "Not 194th anymore." So, and basically I generally disagree with anything Seth Davis says anyway, so I'll just disagree. You got to take on that one, Brad?
But yeah, the thing is, I mean, this team always goes through a lull this time of the year. They always do, and a lot of teams do. I get that, but there are some teams that really start to hit a stride in 1st of February. I mean, how you look at Duke, and ever since the Syracuse game, I mean, they've been playing their best basketball. And North Carolina, you can make the same claim that they've been playing great over the last 3 weeks.
In North Carolina, I mean, you're right. They're in this February swoon that we seem to go in. Boeheim does a lot. But we're lucky we didn't lose 3 in a row. We only lost 1 of the 3 against the worst freaking team in the conference. Jeez. Boeheim said this, and it kind of bothers me. I'm starting to become sympathetic to Raheem Christmas's cause. Boeheim says he should be going to the basket, talking about that last shot. The jump hook is not the right play. We know they double-teamed Tyler, and we knew we could get the ball right there. He got the ball. You got to make that. At that point, it's not really a huge mental error Raheem had. He just missed the shot just like CJ did all night. Why you got to call Raheem Christmas out there, Verk?
It's, I think Boeheim likes to have somebody to whoop up on. And, I think it's a little frustrating. You get the ball to your center, 3 feet from the basket, and he can't convert. Obviously, he's a little frustrated. And shot, Boeheim obviously thought he should have made. And he almost did. He just missed that. I don't think he deserved that much criticism. But, I think in Bayheim's mind, he said he disappeared, that he was non-existent, and he thought Rakeem didn't have a great game, and he let everybody know that.
Hey, SL Mandel tweeted, was that a regular season equivalent of a 16 over a 1? And I'm going to say no, because Boston College ain't even going to be a 16. They're not even going to be in the NIT.
They're better. Boston College is better than probably most of the 16 seeds. Usually the 16 seeds, there's the winner of the the MEAC, or the winner of some small conference who an ACC school should be. It's a huge upset. But BC's hey, they're beating Syracuse and Boston College. They're an ACC school. They got some talented guys. Obviously a team we should beat, but
Crimson Blue tweets, who has lost more mojo? And I'm going to ask this to you, Brad. Who has lost more mojo in their last 3 games? Syracuse, Kansas, or Arizona?
In the last 3 games?
Yeah.
I'd say Arizona. Arizona looked pretty beaten. I watched a lot of their game against Arizona State Friday night. That was a great game. But, Arizona looked pretty defeated most of that game. I don't see that level of resignation on the Syracuse team right yet.
What do you think, Zach?
I'd say Arizona as well. They lost a key player, and that he's not coming back. So,
yeah, that's one way to lose some mojo.
I know what he's going through sometimes, but it's that hurt him. That hurt him for sure.
You agree too, Virk? And Arizona?
Yeah. Obviously, losing your second leading rebounder and scorer is going to have an effect on your team.
Pat 40 at Yahoo 40 tweeted out, Syracuse has got to stop doing this to its fans. They've got to be a collective wreck. And I am a wreck. I twisted my ankle at the North Carolina State game, celebrating at the end. Really bad. I walked down the dome and got in my car. And by the time I drove an hour back home and got out of the car, I literally couldn't walk. I had to crawl on my hands and knees up the steps. So it's taken a physical toll on me, as well as a mental toll. But it's just tough. It's nice. Like Steve and I were driving up to the game last night, and we're like, "Come on, let's just win this one. Let's see. I want to see Patterson, B.J. Johnson, some Roberson in the second half." But that's who it's really hurting, is those guys don't even get to play because every game's close.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing, because you can see the fatigue on these guys. And if there's ever a game where you can maybe rest some of the guys, I mean, how much would Ron Patterson cost you in a game against Boston College, 6-19? If you can't play him in a game like that, he doesn't even belong in your program.
I gotta agree with you there. And that's another thing Steve and I said on the ride home was we could throw our second 5 out there against Boston College and just let them play, and they probably can hold their own. But we can't give.
These guys are fatigued. You got to give them rest. I mean, they're playing games every 3 days.
6-man rotation.
You can't go 6 deep for 3 straight games and expect these guys to be fresh ever.
And by 6 deep, he really means like 5.5, because you're talking Benijay getting what? How many minutes did Benijay get in these 2 games?
He played, up around 20, I know, against NC State.
Benijay.
I don't think he played in the second half at all last night, did he?
He had 15 minutes against Boston College and 17.
Didn't they put him in there in overtime last night?
Yeah, they did.
It was
when
strange.
they went to the press,
they
put him in.
Okay. He almost got a steal, too. But let's see here. Let me move ahead. Okay, last one of these for the list tonight. Anish Shroff at Anish ESPN tweeted, worst loss for Syracuse since this game, which didn't count, #Lemoyne. And I'm not going there. We've had a lot of bad losses over the years, whether it was Richmond Spiders.
Richmond's much worse,
yeah,
in my mind.
NCAA tournament, I mean.
Georgetown last year was much worse.
Vermont
was,
very upsetting for me.
Good one. A lot of
DePaul game from a few years ago, or DePaul just absolutely destroyed them.
Oh, they lost by 30 to DePaul. Yeah, that was a good one. But this was you got to remember, guys, we won 25 games and only lost one. So how bad of a loss can that one be? The reason that it seems so bad is because we're heading to Duke in 2 days, and we're all wanting to be undefeated, but we're not. If we had lost this game in January, it would have been long forgotten, and this, we'd be well over it. But it's fresh wounds, I guess. So, and what you guys, Brad? What are you, worst loss since the Lemoyne loss?
I don't even count the Lemoyne loss as a loss. I mean, they when they played that game, they were experimenting. It was preseason. They played a lot of man-to-man in that game. It wasn't a true game. I mean, if they'd have lost to Carleton in Canada, would that have counted? No, not to me. I mean, I vividly remember that DePaul loss as just being what in the world just happened kind of. I mean, because it wasn't even close. Last night, by all accounts, Syracuse should have won that game. A couple of bounces here or there, and they'd have won that game. DePaul just completely smoked this team out of the gym. That was embarrassing. The Georgetown game last season was truly embarrassing.
Yeah, the worst.
That was a real bad loss, too. I mean, against a good team. But, I mean, to let Otto Porter do what he did in the last game in the Dome for that rivalry.
How much did you pay for tickets to that one, Virk?
There's a
Talk about feel like not getting your money worth.
in recent history.
I spent $500 on that game, so
Oh.
I really, really wasn't happy.
We are getting short on time here, so let's kind of power through these last couple segments. I want your power rankings real quick. I'll give you mine. Louisville 5, Arizona 4, Florida 3, Wichita State 2, Syracuse 1, 25-1.
Michigan State 5, Louisville 4, Duke 3,
Jeez.
Florida 2. No, I don't know. Florida 2, Syracuse 1.
Good. I thought you were going to say Wichita State
Anybody
1.
see the Florida game last night?
And they
What
should have
a
lost last
freaking
night,
joke.
too. They should have lost
That's the
last
way
night,
this
too.
game is.
What? Did you see what they did?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Auburn's on the free throw line. Game's tied. The guy he's got one free throw left. He shoots. There's 20 seconds to go or something.
Not much time.
He shoots and misses. And the Auburn guy intentionally fouls the Florida guy who got the rebound. The game's tied with 20 seconds to go, and then
I've seen it in a high school game. I've never seen it in Division I game.
And then so Florida goes down, makes 2 free throws. Auburn goes to inbounds the ball, and the guy's not looking. They throw the ball to the sideline. It just goes right out of bounds when Florida got the ball back. I've never seen anything like it. Anyway, my top 5, I got Louisville 5, Wichita State 4, Duke 3. Duke's playing well. I think they're right there with everybody. I got Florida 2 and Cuse 1 still. See how it goes.
See how it goes indeed. Brad.
I have the Cincinnati Bearcats 5. We haven't had Cincinnati in anybody's power rankings this year, and they're playing well, and a very defensively stout team. So we'll go with the home team at 5. I got Wichita State 4, Arizona 3. Jim, for the longest time, you said if the number 1 team should be determined based on if they played today, who would win. And I have a very, very difficult time thinking that if Syracuse played Florida today, that Syracuse would win that game. So I've got Syracuse 2 and Florida 1.
Did you see that Auburn game the other night?
I did. They won.
That's true. Okay. Bold predictions. Last week it was just me and Virk. I said Michael Benajay scores a combined 24 points this week. He had 2. Virk said Roberson scores double figures in one of the 2 games. He had 0 points in 2 minutes of play.
Hey, that's close.
Well, we were obviously both thinking that maybe there'd be some scrub time involved or something here, but
I thought Roberson was going to play more because
Keita,
wasn't.
I would agree.
Roberson played more when Keita was healthy.
He did.
What's Boeheim doing?
He had some good minutes in the Duke game, didn't he? He played.
Yeah, he was in there. I bet.
Yeah, he had a nice dunk in the Duke game.
I get it.
It's crazy. So this week, my bold prediction is that Boeheim plays 8 guys against Duke. He's going to stretch out that rotation.
So you're saying Roberson's going to play against Duke?
It will be Roberson, Benajay, and Keita. And that'll be it. But that's a bold prediction after him going 6 deep the last 2.5 games. Who's got a bold prediction ready for me? Anybody?
I got one. I'm toning it down because we were so far off last week. But I'm going to say Syracuse is ranked number 1 Monday morning when the polls come out.
I love it. That means we beat Duke, right?
That's
if we
right.
lose to Duke, there's no way they're going to put us
It
on.
also means Florida loses to Ole Miss on Saturday.
You think
No,
so?
we
I
beat
think we
Duke.
beat Duke. We
Forget
got to
it.
be ahead of Florida.
Forget it, Brad. If we beat Duke, we're number 1 still.
So many people don't want Syracuse number 1.
If we beat Duke
So many
at
people were
Cameron,
happy to see Syracuse lose that game because they think that Syracuse didn't deserve to be 25-1 or 25-0.
Too bad. Florida didn't deserve to win that other game either. So,
bold prediction, Brad.
I don't disagree. My bold prediction, I don't even know how bold it is anymore. I think Trevor Cooney gets shut out at Duke.
Man.
0 points.
All right. Zach?
Wow.
Was it tough? That is tough. This is bold prediction
I think
time.
you're betting on Duke in that game then, Brad. I will say Tyler Ennis will score over 25 in one of the next games, in one of the next 2 games.
Either Duke or then Maryland on Monday.
Yes.
Well, that would be nice. That would be nice. And that is bold.
Shoot the ball, Tyler.
That's
Shoot the
right.
ball.
Okay, 2 for the road. 11:03 Eastern Standard Time here on Thursday evening. My 42nd birthday. I actually got about an hour.
yeah,
left
happy
of it.
birthday.
Thank you.
We've said it a couple times. I've seen you today.
Yep. ACC officiating. I don't like it.
What's the problem with it?
These guys don't look like they know what they're doing. There's 3 of them out there. They're always consulting, changing calls. There's issues where they go to the monitor that take way longer than they should. And, I just think they miss call after call after call. Has it been an issue for you guys? Have you guys noticed anything, or are you guys?
I
think
haven't.
it's just the same?
It's no worse than any other year. That you know what I mean. I don't see a bias. I don't see.
I'm not saying it's a bias.
You just think
I'm
they're
just saying
bad?
it's poor officiating.
Yeah, I haven't noticed anything saying these ACC refs suck.
I just
Yeah, I
miss-
don't think it's any different in this league than it is in any other league that I've been able to observe. I mean, the Arizona State game got screwed up. The officiating, Pac-10 refs are even worse, I
Yeah,
think.
they're way worse.
I'm
sure.
Yeah. Carl Hess has a reputation. It
Yeah.
precedes anything that we've seen coming into this league. So anytime he refs, it's like, some of the guys that we had in the Big East. So you're always going to see inconsistency, and it's unfortunate. And I think these guys ref so many games. They're out there every single night in one city or another.
They're overworked.
You talk about fatigue with the players. The refs are
part-time
even worse,
job,
you'd
too.
imagine.
Well, I know the guy, Jeff Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
You know him a little bit, Matt. And last year he reffed the Louisville Notre Dame game on I think it went like 4 or 5 overtimes
Yep.
Saturday night. Next day he was reffing Canisius UB or something like that. It was on Time Warner. It was like a 2:00 game. It's
Quite the turnaround.
yeah,
It's
it's
like 2 a.m.
unbelievable.
to 2
Then the next game, he
12-hour
might be
turnaround.
reffing the freaking
Yeah.
Lions-Clyde game.
Yeah,
I mean, he
They
does high
ref-
school
they
and
ref-
college, and
Yeah, he finally stopped doing high school.
Did he?
But, yeah,
Okay.
sometimes they'll call him back for like a sectional game or something like that. But it's
And there's
crazy.
some guys that do
refs the sports card
football. They'll do college football or high school football. They'll do basketball and then women's football.
And I knew my dad knew like Gene Mangi and Pete Pavia, and
Pavia,
they were
isn't he? Maybe
school
we-
teachers, and they would go to school and hop on a plane, fly to the game, fly back, and go to school the next day. It's a crazy schedule that they had, and
That's all Anderson does now is he's just college. He's Big East mostly.
yeah, I see him all the time. It's true, I do, because I always recognize him. I'm
Yeah.
like, it seems like he's reffing every game I watch.
But he'll at the Rochester Sports Garden. He'll do that too. He came to Lions and reffed a summer tournament. That's his job. He just refs. So
It's hard for somebody at that level to probably give him too much crap. He probably says, "Look, I don't need to take crap from you. I was coaching a game between Jim Boeheim
Yeah.
and like Roy Williams the other night."
yeah, it's just I miss seeing some of the guys from the Big East, the refs that you knew.
Yeah,
and
I
I
do
think
too.
that the worst. I haven't really had any complaints, but I think the worst, at Duke, at the ACC tournament, I think you'll see maybe a little favoritism towards those schools. But you're playing on the road, which tends to happen anyway.
Yep. All right. Finally, we got 2 games before we're back here again next Thursday night. At Duke Saturday, at Maryland Monday. Do we stand a possibility of losing 2-3 straight now? Where do we stand at this time next week, Brad?
I think the team will be 26-2 next week at this time. I don't think the Maryland game is as hard as people are making it out to. Maryland's mediocre.
Same thing with Virginia.
It's no tougher than playing Clemson or playing, Wake Forest. I don't think they're that great. It's not a tough place to play.
They had Duke beat.
So I think this team beats Maryland. I think they'd lose a close one at Duke.
Okay, Vert.
I agree. I think we win 1 out of 2. I'm not going to say which one, but I think that Maryland game might be a little tougher than we think. They just went to Duke and basically had a shot roll around the rim and fall out, or they would have won at Cameron. So they're capable. They'll be fired up. It's it's probably the last time we're going to play Maryland in quite some time, and should be interesting. But we'll see.
Splitsville, 101.
With losing to Duke, beat Maryland, or you're not going to specify?
I wouldn't specify. I think the Duke game is a little more difficult. But
let's throw. We got this. Boston College beat us. It's time to wake up. We're gonna go down to Duke, and we're gonna.
You predicted like a 50-point Syracuse win over BC, by the way, last week.
Did I?
I think so.
We're going to go into Duke, though, and we're going to win that game. You mentioned, Verk, that Maryland almost beat Duke. So did Vermont. So did a lot of teams. And then we did beat them. They already gave us their best shot. So I'm going to be surprised if we lose that game. I am. And then I'm just concerned with the lag 2 games later playing at Maryland, but we'll win that game. We're
playing so well.
Everything had to go wrong. Everything had to go wrong for us to lose.
They should be on a 4-game losing streak right now.
So I predicted 2 wins. And before we get out of here, I just want to give a shout out to Tom Clark. Who's Tom Clark, you ask? Well, he sent a tweet. He said, "Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. #CuseNation." I said, Tom Clark, that sounds familiar. He's the commissioner of the Professional Bowlers Association. West Jenny grad, lives in Milwaukee, checks out the Upstate Orange Podcast every week. Along with, our numbers are pretty good. We're up over 1,000 combined YouTube views. And
maybe the guy from Newark, what's the professional guy?
Doug Kent?
Maybe Doug Kent. Showed him the link.
Maybe I contact Tom Clark and get a Professional Bowlers podcast going.
Hey.
With Mark Roth and Pete Weber. So thanks for listening, Tom. I got a big kick out of that.
He probably never seen you bowl. I'm
not a bad
quite a
bowler.
Yeah.
No, quite a bowler. I don't know. I carried a 212 average, I think, at my peak back in my prime bowling days. But I got a big kick out of getting that, and a lot of folks have sent emails or tweets to us. We really appreciate hearing that you're enjoying the show. We'll take any suggestions. A lot of criticism too, which I love getting the criticism. You talk about Syracuse for an hour and you make a couple technical, factual errors, and
we got full-time jobs too.
And you're going to hear about it. No,
you don't.
This is my full-time job is the Upstate Orange Podcast. I mean, put everything I got into this thing. But thanks for joining us. Remember, you can subscribe to our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or via RSS. We're online at podcast.fingerlakes1.com/upstatehoops. We'll be back again live next Thursday at 10 o'clock Eastern. Just 2 more episodes on Thursday night before our Selection Sunday special, where we come back live on Selection Sunday night. And then we shift to Sunday nights through the end of the NCAA tournament until Syracuse's last game. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. For Zach Young, my co-host Matt Verkey, Brad Connor, and our producer Jeremy Hunt, I'm Jim Sinner-Cropey. Let's go Orange, beat Duke!